They've kidnapped, Chief Secretary, they've kidnapped the guy. They've literally abducted him. They've taken him to a New York court. They're publishing pictures. I mean, don't get me wrong. Nasty, horrible, brutal dictator. No one's weeping for him. But the precedent is clear. They are literally putting out pictures of the guy on this helicopter.
This is the moment where a government minister is pushed into a corner and cannot escape. On one side, a presenter demanding clarity. On the other, a senior UK official refusing to say the obvious. What happens next exposes how power really works when allies break the rules. There's one moment in this exchange that defines everything, and it comes near the end. If you want more breakdowns like this, make sure you're subscribed and notifications are on. Now let's watch this together, and then I'll share my thoughts at the end.
Darren Jones, Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister, thanks so much for joining us live in the studio this morning. Does the British government support what the US has done?
Well, I don't think anyone in Venezuela seems to be sad about the idea that President Maduro is not in office anymore. The UK, like the United States and many of our European allies, didn't recognise the legitimacy of the last election in Venezuela. Indeed, the UK government sanctioned President Maduro himself not long ago. But given what's happened in the last 24, 48 hours, the important question now is ensuring a peaceful transition.
The way this question is framed leaves no room to hide. What you're about to see isn't confusion, it's evasion under pressure.
So that a new president of Venezuela can be elected democratically with the consent of the people of Venezuela, and anything that we can do as a third country in respect of that, we're happy to do so.
But do we support it?
Well, the idea that President Maduro is no longer the president of Venezuela, yes, we always thought it was illegitimate.
So we support the outcome. Do we support the means?
Well, the means is unconventional. There's no denying that. It's for the American administration to explain the legal basis for having done it. The UK
sure, but do we support it?
Well, it doesn't matter one way or another because it's happened and we were not involved.
Surely it matters. We're a UN Security Council permanent member. Surely it matters what we think. Do we support it or not?
Well, the UN Security Council is going to meet this week and the American administration will have to set out the legal basis for the operation.
Are you saying that your own government's view about this matter doesn't matter?
No, I'm saying that we need to see the legal basis for the operation that the Americans undertook. They've not published that detail yet. I'm assuming they will do at the UN Security Council.
Would the British government do this?
Would we do?
Yeah. Would we do what they've done? Would we remove a foreign leader in that way?
Watch how the question is simple, but the answer never is. That's not confusion, that's deliberate avoidance.
President Trump says the US will run Venezuela. Do we support that?
As we've said, as I've just said, there should be a democratically elected president of Venezuela that commands the support of the people of Venezuela. It's a democratic country, has the basis in democracy. And
but when asked last night who would be running Venezuela, Trump said, the men behind me, members of his cabinet. Now, as a politician dedicated to the rule of law, as you said, does that make you feel at all uncomfortable?
Well, we're not really clear yet on the detail of what President Trump meant by that. I understand this morning that the courts in Venezuela have appointed an interim president and that the administration in Venezuela continues to operate. So I can't speculate about what President Trump meant. Only he and his administration can answer those questions. But as I say,
you can say whether you think that on an interim basis, we think it's a good idea that President Trump runs Venezuela.
Sure. All I'm saying is that all I've seen on an interim basis is that an interim president has been appointed in Venezuela by the Venezuelan.
Notice how legal basis becomes a shield here. It's a way to delay judgment without defending the action.
Courts, I don't.
And you have no view whatsoever about whether what he's done and what he's proposing to do is legal. You haven't thought about it.
Well, it's not for me to come to a legal judgment.
No, but you've got lots of lawyers. You've got thousands of lawyers working for the government who could.
That will inform the Foreign Secretary's views at the UN Security Council once the detail has been seen. But
is that assessment being made currently?
Well, of course, the British government will be at the UN Security Council, so it'll have to take a view having seen.
Will you publish that legal advice?
We don't routinely publish legal advice because
no, but this is important. But so would you give an indication of it?
That's not a decision for me, but we don't normally publish legal advice as a matter of precedent. But of course, if the UN Security Council meets this week, we'll consider that detail.
This is where discomfort shows. The words are careful, but the hesitation says everything.
When it's published.
Let's imagine that President Putin had kidnapped President Zelensky and his wife and taken them to Moscow. And President Putin said that he's done that to protect the national security interests of Russia. If I was sitting here talking to you and asking whether you thought that was a good idea and whether that was legal, would you be saying to me, well, it's up to the Russian government to produce that legal basis?
Any operation from any sovereign state that recognises international law. I'm not sure that Russia does in these circumstances. But if they do, they have to set out the legal basis for any decisions that they take.
So Russia could do that, and you would just wait for them to produce the legal text?
No, I'm not answering a hypothetical question. What Russia's done in Ukraine is clearly illegal, in the same way that settlements in the West Bank by Israeli settlers are clearly illegal. But they're clearly illegal because
He's being asked for principle, not paperwork, and he won't give it.
It is clearly illegal.
So I think the circumstances were different. President Putin undertook a more traditional invasion war into Ukraine. The Americans are saying this was a law enforcement measure.
They've kidnapped, Chief Secretary, they've kidnapped the guy. They've literally abducted him. They've taken him to a New York court. They're publishing pictures. I mean, don't get me wrong. Nasty, horrible, brutal dictator. No one's weeping for him. But the precedent is clear. They are literally putting out pictures of the guy on this helicopter, blindfolded, and you're saying, that could be fine. Might be.
All I'm saying is we can't answer those questions yet because they've not published the legal basis. You've not seen it. I've not seen it. Well, they'll have to make submissions to the UN Security
We've heard it from
Council.
President Trump, Chief Secretary. He thinks that might is right. The fact that America can do it means they should do it. And indeed, he's saying quite openly that if other countries get in his way, he'll do the same to them. And you're not saying that makes you uncomfortable or worried or disturbed. You think it's just, let's just wait and see?
This comparison matters because standards should apply to friends too.
We want the rules-based order to work, of course we do. But look, this isn't just the position of the UK government. This is the position of other European countries too. Germany has been saying the same as the United Kingdom. All I'm saying is we need the time over the next few days of this week to engage with our American counterparts, for them to publish the legal basis of the operation for the UN Security Council.
Would you urge the United States government not to abduct any other foreign leaders?
Look, I'm not going to answer hypothetical questions.
You won't urge the United States government not to abduct other foreign leaders?
We think the rules-based order matters and that people should comply with international law. When an operation like this is...
You're not making an assessment as to whether or not you think it has complied with international law?
Because it's for the Americans to set out the basis of the legal basis on which they did the operation, and then for international courts or the UN Security Council to take a view. I'm not trying to dodge the question, Lewis. All I'm saying is this is the way the rules-based order works.
Listen carefully. Nobody disputes the act, only who's allowed to judge it.
Yeah, we are. And we're
you don't sound like an important country. You don't sound like you're speaking for an important country, Chief Secretary. You sound like you're speaking on behalf of a supplicant country who's afraid of a bigger country.
I disagree with that assessment. We are following the proper process that any government would follow.
If this were Russia, if this were China, if this was anywhere else in the world, we would be the first out the traps, first out the gate, saying, this is disgraceful, we condemn it. You know that, I know that.
As I say, we need to see the legal basis for the operation that was undertaken and what President Trump meant by his comments yesterday in terms of the...
This is the contradiction at the heart of the argument. Rules matter until they don't.
Administration.
The wife of Stephen Miller, the President's Deputy Chief of Staff, has tweeted a map of Greenland, you might have seen this, covered with an American flag saying that they're next, saying soon, in capital letters. Would you urge the United States not to invade Greenland?
Of course, Greenland is part of the Kingdom of Denmark. It is a sovereign state in its own right, and the rules-based order and international law is very, very clear. All I'm saying is...
Would you urge them not to abduct the leader of Greenland?
Of course, but all I'm saying is that the Americans' commentary so far has been that this was a law enforcement measure against President Maduro.
They've also said it was about oil.
Well, the action that they've said so far was about law enforcement, but we've not seen any. Well, we've not seen any more detail about the law enforcement rationale for their operation, and that's what the American administration needs to publish.
There's going to be a vote of censure clearly in the United Nations. How are we going to vote in that motion?
So we've got to see what the motion says. We've got to see what the American explanation is.
Are there circumstances in which we could vote against America?
I don't know. I've not seen the basis of their legal argument, and I've not seen the motion. Of course,
But if we don't find those things satisfactory, could we vote against the United States?
Well, Britain is a sovereign state, a sovereign member of the UN Security Council. It reserves
that line lands hard because it's not emotional, it's factual.
The right to vote in any which way it wants to. All I'm saying is I can't prejudge a motion that's not been written on a legal basis I've not seen. But the Foreign Office and our representatives in the United Nations will be doing that work over the coming days.
Do you think that Donald Trump is interested in international law?
I mean, he has made very clear that he's interested in trying to resolve peace in Africa and other places around the world.
Do you think he's committed to international law as a concept?
You'd have to ask him the question. I mean, the United...
You. Well, I'd love to ask him.
Well, I don't speak on behalf of President Trump, as you will appreciate. I don't know.
Well, President Putin's clearly not interested in international law. Would you agree with that?
Well, because he's unleashed an unconventional illegal war in Ukraine.
And President Trump has abducted, as you yourself say, in completely unconventional, unprecedented ways, abducted a foreign leader. So given everything we know, and given that he's threatening other countries with the same, and given his record in other areas as well, would you say that he's very interested in international law? And I think he would probably say he's not. I'm just interested in what you think.
As I say, I'm not going to try and be a spokesperson for President Trump. I neither wish to do that or will do it. I speak on behalf of the UK.
When hypotheticals keep getting refused, it's usually because the answer is obvious.
Government.
Do you think America continues to be a dependable ally?
Our relationship with the United States on economic and security and defence matters is really important to us. I sit in...
Do they listen to us about anything?
Yes, I sit in number 10 in the Cabinet Office. Our intelligence relationship, the work that we do day in, day out,
Didn't even tell us about this, though, did they?
The UK is really important. And continues to be important. They didn't engage us on this issue because we were not involved in it. We were not operationally involved in any way. This was a unilateral action of the United States of America.
But there's plenty of precedent for when the US has done things. They typically tell us, and they haven't in this case.
If there's a kind of NATO locus, or if we're involved in any way...
Supposed to have a special relationship.
Sure.
Doesn't sound very special.
We do, but we have to remember the president didn't tell Congress either in the United States for reasons that they've set out in their press conference yesterday. So they've obviously taken a decision.
Well, they hate half of Congress, and we're supposed to have a special relationship. So perhaps
I don't know what
you
their
might
view
imagine
is on Congress. But
well, they don't like the Democratic Party, and they're half the Congress. So
fine. But look, the UK was not involved in this operation in any way. So if we were, then obviously we would have been involved in those discussions.
if they had told us, would we have urged them not to do it?
I'm not going to answer questions on hypotheticals.
We didn't know about this, as you say, and the Prime Minister has told us repeatedly that he has a great relationship with President Trump. He's invested so much time. We invited him over for a second state visit. We rolled out the red carpet. We gave him the full kind of imprimatur of the British royal family. For what? For what? They don't even tell us about when they're going to basically take out another regime. I mean...
This is no longer about Venezuela. It's about power, loyalty, and silence. This exchange comes down to one defining moment. They've kidnapped him. That line hangs over everything that follows. Because once you accept that description, neutrality collapses. The presenter plays the role of accountability. The minister plays the role of caution, but caution turns into complicity when standards change based on who breaks the rules. If Russia does it, it's illegal. If an ally does it, we wait. That's not a rules-based order, that's a power-based one. The iconic image of a blindfolded leader on a helicopter becomes the symbol here. Not of justice, but of precedent. So here's the real question for you. Should international law depend on who your friends are? If you found this breakdown useful, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications because these moments matter more than ever.